Have you been looking for a fantastic way to add curves to your quilt, but you're afraid your block won't lay flat or it'll be too hard to make that seam match? Well, you're in the right place. I'm Jen Wagner, a quilt pattern designer, instructor, Benertex, and Aliso ambassador. Thousands of my patterns have been sold worldwide, and I've had the opportunity to present and teach at shows like Quilt Market, QuiltCon, and Road to California, among others. And I love to travel to teach quilting to guilds all over the United States. Today, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite ways to use curves using a little bit of freezer paper and making them oh so very easy and accurate. We'll be using my brand new quilt pattern, Riley Michelle, to make smooth, beautiful, easy, accurate curves. Let's dive in. When thinking about curves, it helps to think about pie. Yeah, like pumpkin pie or apple pie. We have both a crust and a filling. And when we're making a fabric pie, we need both components. We're going to start with our pie crust, which is going to be the background around the circle. And I'm going to be using this black fabric from the Go With The Flow fabric line by Ann Lohr for Benertex, which is what I used in my quilt. And then I'm going to get a freezer paper template. And freezer paper is paper on one side, plastic on the other side. You can get this at the grocery store, but it's really flimsy. So I like to use heavy duty freezer paper, which I have laser cut for templates for this quilt if you want to dive in. I also have them in other sizes, so you can make all sizes of Drunkards Path blocks. So what is freezer paper? One side's paper, one side is plastic, and this shiny side is the plastic side. And we want to put that down on the wrong side of our pie crust or our background fabric. So my fabric is wrong side up, and I square this up. I line it up just right. I've turned this all the way up to the high setting or the cotton setting, and no steam because we're working with paper, so we don't want our paper to get wet. So hot dry iron, and if you are working with the grocery store variety of freezer paper, you barely have to get it hot and it will stick. It gets hot really fast. But because the heavy duty stuff is significantly thicker, you do have to iron it for about 5 to 8 seconds to get it to stick. And then of course it's going to be hot, so be careful, but you can see how beautifully that sticks and it's reusable. So when I'm done, I'll peel it off and use it on my next block. Now that I have ironed my template on, I'm going to give it a second to cool. And then I'm going to get some sharp fabric scissors and cut roughly a ½ inch to a ¼ inch away from the edge of my freezer paper. This does not have to be perfect, just roughly cut. And then I'm going to come in and clip just so the fabric will have a little bit more room to bend. And I'm being really careful to keep the tips of my scissors away from the edge of my freezer paper so that I'm not clipping all the way through. If I clip all the way through, then I won't have a sturdy place for my sewing, for my seam allowance. So then I'm going to get out some washable glue. You could use a glue stick as long as it's water soluble, meaning it washes out and it's safe on fabric. I really like the Soline glue pen because it's refillable and it's washable and it's nice and narrow. And I'm going to put a little bead of glue right here on the edge of my freezer paper. And then I'm going to pull my fabric back and press it into place. I may not have done this quickly enough. I do live in the desert, so it does dry. So I'm going to put some more glue on there. Let's see if it sticks this time. There it goes. And I'm just going to pull this back. Then I'm going to put glue on the fabric. Now I've got glue on both sides of my seam allowance, and I'm going to get my pie filling or the other fabric, and I can kind of audition it and see this way it gets all the colors. So let's stick it down this way, and then I just push it in so that the glue gets into the fibers of both layers of fabric. And now we're going to go over to the sewing machine. To set up my sewing machine, I start by reducing my stitch length to 2. Most machines default to 2.5, but I find that a smaller bite makes a smoother curve. Think about a stop sign with 8 sides. You give it more sides, it gets rounder. So I like a 2 on this size curve. If I was doing something smaller, I would even bump it down to 1.8. I've also set the speed of my machine to about half instead of zooming it, and that way I have more control with my pedal on how fast my speed goes. I also set my needle in the down position, so there it's up and there it's down, and that way if I need to stop, I don't lose my place. I've also put an open toe foot on my machine, meaning that I have room to see where I'm going. I've also threaded my machine with red thread just to make it easier for you to see exactly what I'm doing, but normally I would use a coordinating thread. Now remember, I have freezer paper still here under my curve, and I'm just going to start by peeling a little bit of the freezer paper off here, and I'm aiming to get to the point right here where the fold of this black fabric, my pie crust, starts. And I am going to come in and put a few stitches right up against my freezer paper. Remember, my freezer paper is glued in place, so it's going to stay there and be my guide. And then I just continue to peel as I sew, letting my needle fall right up against the edge of the freezer paper. So I can peel a little bit more, and if I needed to, I could always lift my foot and adjust if I need to also. I'm going slow, I'm taking my time. With curves, there's no need to rush. Going slow helps make the curve nice and smooth. Perfect. Now that I have sewn right up against the edge of my freezer paper, I can take my freezer paper off, and this is the part where it's been glued to the seam allowance. And then I'm going to just cut off my extra fabric here, making about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to go back to my iron and iron this flat. Sometimes when we're working with curves, we will get spots that get little V-shaped creases. And if that happens, no big deal. You can always get a little bit of flatter, which is a spray that releases wrinkles. And I just spritz a little bit on and rub it in, and you can see that any of those little creases that came from being under my presser foot just vanish away. I'm going to give this a press one last time. And now I have a perfectly smooth, accurate curve every single time using my reusable templates. And where this glue was placed on, you don't always have to reapply it. Oftentimes when I go to do the next one and I clip and I fold this back, it will stick with just a little bit of heat from my iron, and I only reapply every 2 or 3 times. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about some curves. Thank you so much for being here with me in my studio today. Of course, all the notions, the freezer paper, and the pattern are linked down below. I'd love to see what you make. Share it with me. And of course, if you like what you saw today, like and subscribe so I can keep making more videos like this for you. Happy quilting.